is that we introduced a program last year, which the concept of a travel grant to reward outstanding players from developing federations at the youth level to assist them with getting to the World Youth. And we have attached as part of this annex the list of the 17 players who are the first winners, and we hope to see most, if not all of them, in Brazil in a few weeks' time. What we want to do, though, is that when we looked at that program, we probably set the grant amount to be a little bit too small, and the intention is to really assist the players, and we are recommending an increase of the grant to $1,000 US per player to help with their, up to $1,000 US per player to help with the cost of travel. The probably most significant recommendation coming out of the Commission meeting is to do with the cap deck list of federations that is now currently part of the statutes, and looking at moving away from the list in its traditional format to completely reorganizing the list to become a comprehensive list of all members of FIDE, but categorizing them by their development level, from identifying those federations which are the most developed federations to those federations, like the 3 federations we would have just admitted, who are now starting out on their journey and now developing the sport within their country. Not every federation will start like that. As we know, with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, we had quite a number of federations that would have immediately gone to the top. So you would not always have that particular scenario, but by and large, most of the new federations are fairly developmental in their nature. But in addition to that, there are a number of areas within the FIDE handbook and financial regulations which obviously tie back to that list for a number of incentives, and to certainly assist with those 2 incentives to produce 2 separate lists, one every 2 years, and that list would be a list identifying those federations which would be eligible for pocket money under the usual act, an Olympiad, and that pocket money is really at the discretion of the organizer. It's not an obligation of FIDE. FIDE's only role is to basically indicate the federations which would be eligible for that pocket money. And the second one would be to, as well, develop a list which would be available in January each year to indicate to the FIDE treasurer which federations are eligible for the what is called a cap deck activity rebate. So, and separating that from the development list. Obviously, in going forward, we would have to look in terms of identifying projects that are coming to us, what levels of development certain federations will be eligible for. That's our 3rd recommendation. I believe well, it's not a recommendation, but in the report of the trainers program, it was covered that we had a very good meeting with the trainers commission and have identified a number of projects for next year. And the final recommendation was, there are still, it may come as a surprise to some of us, there are a number of federations within the continent of Europe which are categorized as developing federations. But under the previous mechanism for allocating how the Development Commission budget would be spent, those federations were excluded, thereby kind of making it senseless for them being on the list if they were excluded. So there was a recommendation for reorganizing the allocations of the cap deck, what we call, traditionally would call the cap deck budget or the development budget, across continents, and to introduce a portion to be used within Europe. And obviously, when you have to redistribute the pie, you have to make some decisions where some will come from and others won't. So we made some decisions, but I know there was a recommendation that maybe we cut too heavy into Asia, and that a recommendation that we could raise that back up to 20% rather than dropping it to 15 from where it was by 25%. So our recommendation was the allocation of the budget would be 40% Africa, 25% America, 15% Asia, Europe 7.5%, and then a budget of 12.5% at the discretion of the chairman, but that also includes the organization of development commission meetings, etc., and goes towards some projects which cut across all continents. So that there so is a very quick synopsis of the various recommendations coming from the Commission.
Thank you. Any comment?
As I mentioned in the Development Commission meeting at the Presidential Board in Adain, we requested, Leon requested, that the allocation of Asia not be deducted by 10%, but only by 5%. And the Presidential Board so recommended.
Yes, I mean, I think it was what was agreed at the Presidential Board that this year it would be 20% and next year it was agreed to take it down to 15 one go was too much, but I think that's their recommendation. I mean, I don't think here is the time to fight over 5%, 10% here, there, or everywhere. That's, you want to continental presidents and Alan can have their fight separately without us doing it in front of everybody. I think is a much more pleasant way of doing it.
Thank you, Nigel.
Excuse me. I think when it comes to Development Commission, we talk about 200,000 euros. This is the commission that receives the biggest amount of support from FIDE, and normally this is presented by the Treasurer and approved either at the General Assembly or Executive Board. The decision to share this allocation in a certain percentage was made in 2002. It is fortunate that in the last years we had a very generous continental president. But it does not mean that this can go on forever. If the continental president is changed, will Asia gets its 20% or 25% back? So I think, as I suggested, we should do this gradually, and if there is necessary to reduce, then I think all the other continents should share this. We don't need round figures. It can be odd figures, 9 to 4, 19, you know. But everybody should contribute towards this. Asia is not a small continent. There is a huge area in Asia, in the Pacific, in the Oceania, which Brian is doing a wonderful job. There are about 20 islands which can be members of FIDE. So Asia is economically improving, but chess-wise is still only improving gradually. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
Just for the record, you know that we used to have these three categories, from which two of them were getting pocket money during Olympiads. And now there is also a discussion who is entitled to, who is not entitled to. I discussed with Alan yesterday, our commission with CACTEC, and just for the record that Mr. Alan Herbert will provide a list for Istanbul also and for Norway, with those who are entitled to get this, and to avoid any discussions, it will be based on United Nations criteria and not our criteria. It will be the fair criteria, and I presume that Alan is prepared.
And where is Greece? Do you know the crisis? We want to move to the lowest category. It's basically to Asia. Thank you very much.
Mr. Deputy President, I just wanted to reassure you that I sincerely hope that by January, Greece is not slid to the point where it would qualify. But should it happen, please be assured that you will be given equal consideration.
because I will accept the reports, objections.
No, sorry.
What?
The location, what is it? We discussed in earlier, the presidential board agreed to reduce Asia's budget 50%. And here again, we are having this
But
development.
is it okay now we have a good president? It's okay, but if we don't have, okay, what do you want now?
No, that is another story. But I think to reduce from 25 to 15 is a 10% reduction.
So,
We are on Development Commission allocation.
Yes, Mr. President, I am not opposed
did you
to.
discuss this in the committee?
No, at the very end of the commission meeting, Mr. Bono made us aware of the presidential board decision. Okay, so we did not have an opportunity to discuss it. But what I'm going to suggest is that I certainly am not averse to taking into consideration the recommendation and coming up with a revised allocation.
So the commission cannot make a decision on this. We are talking about a budget of 200 million euros. The commission can make a recommendation, and it's for the board to approve or to modify the recommendation. And there is a proposal now that we modify this back to 20% as recommended already by the presidential board.
What's the problem? If the board has decided it should be
The Development Commission that Asia is 20%.
I think if the board has decided according to our good first, it should be implemented.
So where is the 5%? You say this is the problem.
The German.
The chairman. 7.5. Sorry. Okay, we agree now. What do you propose?
I don't agree it comes from the chairman's part of it, because having seen what the budget is and what happens, the chairman's part is quite important, especially, for instance, the monies that are going to every continent for this prize, for the junior things, this travel scholarship thing, that comes out of the president. So we're cutting it out from the president to get even less money. And there's almost no money for him to distribute on a general basis, and so therefore we might as well forget about the CAC Commission and just give it directly to continental presidents and let them get on with it. That's wrong. So I think that just saying it has to come out of the chairman's amount is incorrect. As I said, I think can we have it that we will get together, Alan will get together with the continental presidents and with Ignatius and come up with a suggestion that the presidential board approves in the next presidential board meeting as to how it's split for 2012. 2011 is 20% ratio. That's agreed. 2012, that Alan and the continental presidents get together, Ignatius as well, and come up with something the presidential board decides.
Okay. Nigel.
Richard, Secretary of Development. I just want to back Nigel because also at the meeting we were working on a budget of 100,000 and it seems to have doubled since the meeting. So. And I think we can't make that decision here today.
So, thank you very much. We accept the report. Yes. Objections? No, thank you. There is for point 14 Constitutional Commission. We have very serious document. I don't believe that we can decide. And this is for the General we cannot decide here. What we are doing is we are inviting the federations to send their comments on this document, and then I get to go to the General Assembly to make the decision. It's very serious if we open a discussion here. One day, that for this. Okay? Constitutional, Annex 70. Annex 70. Government is in here. So we go to what?
The ethics commission, which we approved already, in the ethics committee report which we approved already, it says here that the Constitutional Commission shall give an advisory opinion to the ethics committee. And a while ago we approved the report of Dr. Rivera, Professor Rivera, and that's the system he recommended in his report. Yeah.
Okay, we are inviting the Federation to send their comments concerning this report. Next point, we're going to discuss tomorrow Session Schools Commission, because maybe it will take long. That's why now I jumped to this point, because 6:30 they are leaving the capacity here. Special projects, last point for today.
Special projects, which is Annex 72. Mr. Luca, I don't think wants to say anything because the World Chess Games for the Disabled takes place just after this. If you've got any questions, Mr. Luca, please now, or otherwise we will accept his report, and we look forward to hearing from him in more detail. And then the other thing we've got is Annex 30, which is the ICSC, which I believe is the deaf. The organising committee for they've asked the organising committee for the Olympiads to provide local and competent sign language interpreter. We've discussed this with both with Tromsø and with Istanbul, and I believe the belief is that they are may be willing to do so, as long as the expense is not that high, and it's only in one language. And I think that both Ali and JJ, before you actually agree to doing it, I would, do they want it just at the closing ceremony? Do they want it throughout the General Assembly or whatever it is? It might end up being a very long and a rather expensive time. So it's up to you to decide whether you wish it or not. Ali, yes?
First of all, I'm very, I cannot be sure, I can be Adams or Mice, but to be sure it's different. So I can thank to Mr. Luther, because I have discussed with him. He has very nice ideas, and we are all candidates to be disabled one day, as normal people. So what Nigel said, we are going to make in the Olympiad. Nigel is only wrong that we didn't discuss it. He asked, David asked, and I accepted. So, but also, no discussion. For Olympiad, I am proposing to Disabled Chess Commission to make a special night in the charity program, and all revenues of the night should be allocated to a special fund to be used for disabled chess. And I hope that Mr. President will open the night with a big donation